Wisconsin at Purdue. This is Wednesday college basketball. Marco, who do you like and why?
Well, I like Purdue in this game, RJ, and the big question in this game is how does Wisconsin react after Saturday's big upset of Ohio State? And I'm going to be the first to say, normally, I like to take the team coming off the big win and ride the momentum, but this is a different case to me. You know, we talk about this in football, about big games, but in basketball, you got a short reaction time. I mean, football, you got a whole week till the next game. Basketball, they did this on Saturday. They're right back at it Wednesday. In that game on Saturday, not only did they upset the #1 team in the country, it was the last unbeaten team, but it's in the fashion and way they had to do it. They came from 15 points down in that game to rally, to beat Ohio State in a dogfight. I just don't think they got anything left in the tank for this game on Wednesday.
Okay, so couple issues come to mind. How do you differentiate between Wednesday to Saturday turnarounds and then Saturday to Wednesday turnarounds? Because with just counting on your fingers, you got Thursday and Friday on the one, you got Sunday, Monday, Tuesday on the other. One's got 2 days, one's got 3 days. In this case, it's 3 days.
I don't put a big deal on the day, the number of days there, the 2 or 3. I don't think there's a lot of difference. Now, where I do think there is a difference.
No, but let's talk about that. So there's a big deal during the NFL season when a team plays on Monday night. So to go from 7 games to 6 games is, what, a 14% drop. To go from 3 to 2 is a 33% drop.
It is, RJ, but again, comparing the football to the basketball is, they're creatures of habit. There's 7 days. NFL teams have, a regulated schedule.
In football, you're saying they're a creature, and they have a regimented schedule.
Basketball, they're used to playing different days of the week all the time. I mean, they'll play, sometimes on a Monday, sometimes they'll play on a Wednesday. Teams do have different schedules in basketball season, and then, of course, once they get into the tournaments, it's a totally different schedule, especially conference tournaments.
Okay, so if they're used to the variations within the schedule, then what makes Wisconsin susceptible to a letdown here, other than just normal psychology, which is you win a big game, you're susceptible to the letdown? Why here more than the average team?
Again, because this is Ohio State, which was #1 in the country, the last unbeaten team, and I put a big emphasis.
So it was a big win.
It's a big win, but the energy spent in that game. When you come back from 15 down.
So it's with these 20, you're talking about fatigue? This is fatigue?
This is a situation because when you're down 15, the way you claw back into a game is great defense, and, obviously your offense has got to be clicking. And we've talked numerous times on podcasts. It takes a lot more energy to play defense. And to shut down a team like Ohio State for Wisconsin to get back in the game, I just don't think
but
coming
with
back.
3 day, not even talking about this game in particular, but general college basketball handicapping. These kids are almost all 21 or younger. You're saying that 3 days of rest, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, that come Wednesday, it's going to be a fatigue issue. It's not emotion, they're physically tired.
It's a combination of all of it. The fatigue, mentally coming back, that, we just beat the #1 team in the country. You're fat and sassy. It's a Saturday game at home. Can you imagine the parties on campus over the weekend after this game?
That's a good point.
You're a college boy. You know what those parties were like.
So you said earlier that you typically like to ride the momentum. In all those cases, aren't you facing the fatigue you're talking about here?
You are, but to me, there's big wins and then there's gigantic wins. And to me, I'm putting this win on a different level. There's big wins in a conference.
So if there's a big win, you think there's less emotional fatigue, and thus you like to ride the momentum. When it's such a big win, the emotional fatigue reaches the tipping point that it's going to be negative for the next game.
Absolutely. And then now, let's take it to phase 2 and do nuts and bolts handicapping. This Wisconsin team's not the same team on the road as they are at home. They have lost on the road by 8 at Illinois, by 3 at Michigan State. Michigan State's having a bad year. They're really down this year. And they lost by 4 at Penn State, which is middle of the road in the Big Ten. So they're not a dominant team on the road. Given everything, the way they've played on the road this year, the magnitude of Saturday's game, the letdown, I just think it's a great spot for Purdue. You're getting line value because obviously the stock is at its highest point on Wisconsin winning, beating the #1 team.
And we always talk about it, when there's a public perception, oftentimes it's rooted in an accurate assessment. Wisconsin probably is a little better than people think. But what you're saying is there's two factors that's going to cause an overvaluation of that. Factor number one is going to be the fact that in general people overevaluate what they see, and especially if it's like you said, the #1 team losing their first game late in the year. And number two, there's a slight misperception that Wisconsin is just a team. Well, really, they're a road team and a home team, and the difference between the two is more extreme than most. Now, I didn't read the whole thread, but in the forums, I noticed that Zach Lawson gave you a little pushback on your 5-point. You said you give 5 points for home. So Ohio State plays Wisconsin, and if Wisconsin were -5 at home, they'd be +5 at Ohio State. Okay. I personally have been in the ballpark of what you're talking about when it comes to quality college teams. Mm-hmm. Teams with like you go to Duke, that's 5 points. Mm-hmm. How did that dialogue go in the discussion?
It was a very popular thread yesterday. We had over 1,600 views and 33 replies. And as I said in there, it's a starting point.
Who tipped you off to start that thread?
You told me it would be a good topic, and so I jumped in.
You ran with it.
I ran with it, and the forum, they were excited.
You started exercising. Are you going to share? Are you going to share this process with the viewers?
You're just incredible.
What?
Yeah, well, Marco's trying to trim down a little bit,
Because of the camera?
Yeah, well, they say that the cameras add 10 pounds,
so
and
really
Marco can't afford to add 10 pounds.
I mean, whenever people meet you, they're like, the guy doesn't have an ounce of fat on him, that freaking camera. But so anyway, was it something where people chimed in on the 5 points, or how'd that go?
They liked it, and I liked one of the guy's comments he was thanking for letting you go behind the curtain and see how you do it. And like I told Sack, everybody has their own way. You have to have something that you work with. And it's something that I've done. It's a great barometer to start with. But what I do is from that 5-point swing, then you take, if it's a second meeting, you take how the teams have performed since they first played.
Has there been adjustment in their power ranking?
Since they've played, are they winning or losing since they met last? What's the current perception of the team? And you add +1, -1 on different factors, like it's a grading scale. And it's worked well for me.
Now, Ken Palm, a guy on the internet that is a stats guy, he tweeted out on Saturday that beating the #1 team at home is similar to beating the #17 team on the road. So he would say that home road in AP ranking or in top 25 ranking is actually 17 spots. Now, how that translates to points is a different matter. Okay, so let's see here. We talked about line. Now, we're recording on Tuesday. The line's not
The line is out for Wednesday.
The line is out.
It's Purdue is -4. The only other factor that we didn't get to.
What did you? Oh, okay. But
my projection was my projected line was 4.5.
Doesn't it say? Oh, 4.5. Yeah. I thought you were trying to say 4, and I was going to bust you.
No, I had 4.5.
Because I saw the scratch.
Yeah, no. When we got the updated.
Honesty.
Honestly, well,
open and honest.
I do the lines before I come on board, and then we check before we go on air.
Okay, so Purdue at 4. So really, they're saying that Wisconsin's only about 1 point better than Purdue. Does that seem like we're really getting value? So in theory, you've got to think Wisconsin is slightly better. Oh, excuse me, check that. You have to think, if you think that as we're calling it, the true line on this game is 6.5, let's say, so you really believe that Purdue's the better team?
I believe Purdue's the better team playing at home. They're because
but on a neutral,
this game's probably is a pick 'em. Maybe Wisconsin won right now because of public perception.
So where's the value then?
There's not value, but the line's where it should be. But I'm doing a handicap. And my handicap says that I don't think you're going to see Wisconsin's best performance tonight.
So you're saying they're going to underperform.
They're going to underperform. Purdue's going to perform even better because now they're hosting the team that just beat the #1 team in the country. We said about the home-road dichotomy with Wisconsin. Purdue's undefeated at home. So, I mean, to me, it's a convergence of, you know, the perfect storm almost. I have to ride Purdue here in this game. I've got Purdue winning 71-63, and that's our first play for the Wednesday
How did
play.
you do last week?
Last week we went 2-2 with the 4 picks that we gave out.
This was on the Friday table?
On the Friday table.
How did my, now I was neutral on 3.
You gave the blessing on 1 and it won.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's go out to the main camera. So far I'm undefeated when I give a blessing to one of is that correct?
That is correct.
And you're less than 50.
Case study of 1.
And you're less than 50% when I am neutral. 1 and 2.
Oh my God!
All right. So really, they heard your pick, but right now they're thinking, well, what does RJ think?
I am sure that is running through every viewer's mind right now.
I'm actually gonna give my blessing on this.
You're gonna give your blessing on this one?
Yes.
Okay.
There you go. Anything to close?
No, I think we've said enough on this one.
It's your turn to continue the conversation in the comments section with Marco and me. And next up, we're going to be breaking down another game. Oh, Georgetown at Connecticut for Wednesday.